Hi, I'm Ellen Siegel, and today I'm talking with Janine Vague of Transformative Psychotherapy. So relax into your openness and enjoy this enlightening conversation.
Hi, welcome everybody. Hi, Janine.
Hi.
This is Enlightening Conversations, and I'm Ellen Siegel, author of Be Happy No Matter What. And
I'm
is
Janine Vague with Transformative Psychotherapy, LLC.
Yeah, and we're both counselors, and we love to do these talks because we're not rehearsed. They're topics that we both love. And so we invite you to enjoy with us and in your mind, converse with us. Have your thoughts come up in your mind as if we're all talking together. Today's topic is spirituality, and whether you consider yourself spiritual or not, this is a conversation for everyone because we all have higher wisdom in ourselves, wherever we tap that from. So we thought we would start today by sharing, each one of us, how we've come to where we are spiritually today. Is that the way to say it, Janine? Was there a better way? Okay.
Kind of the path that we went down to get to where we are.
Yep. So I was brought up in a Reform Jewish home on Long Island in New York. My father, he grew up in an Orthodox Jewish home in Brooklyn. And my mother grew up in something called the Conservative Jewish home in New Jersey. And I think my father and my mother were drawn to the American Reform movement for Judaism. It was much more modern, and they were charter members of a local temple or synagogue, which actually means meeting place, in what were post-World War II communities on Long Island. So it was new communities, new parents, young children, new churches, new temples. And so when I came along, they required that I went to Sunday school. And so I was brought into a religion like right from the start, even though it wasn't Orthodox. And I think of Orthodox, whether it's in Christianity or Islam, or as the most observant or the most ritual, or at least this is what I experienced through what Orthodox Judaism is. So in Reform, you could say it had rituals and things like that, but nothing of the depth or amount, volume. So Sunday school, I guess, was sort of fun until I realized I didn't want to be in school on the weekends also. So I'm going to say to everybody, and to you, Janine, I fought it every step of the way. But I was a good girl on the outside. I was fighting on the inside, but a really good girl on the outside. So I would go, and then secretly, I only realized a couple of weeks ago, because I was thinking about this, that I really loved going. I loved the dances. I loved the learning of the services. I loved the Hebrew prayers. I loved that we got grape juice instead of wine. And I had a whole circle of friends there that weren't just in my school district, because it drew from several school districts. Mm-hmm. So, and then my parents knew that I was fighting it as I was a young teenager. And they said, you know, when you're 13, even though I didn't get bat mitzvah, which is a rite of passage in the Jewish tradition, traditionally only for boys, bar mitzvah, but in the Reform movement, bat mitzvah, so girls were included. But I didn't really want to go to Hebrew school on top of Sunday school. It was all too much for me. So I let my parents know I wasn't interested in that. And they were very kind and didn't force me, even though I was counting the years till Sunday school was over. But the moment they said I didn't have to go at age 13, something happened. It was like a paradoxical case. They said I didn't have to go. I wanted to go. So I went all the way through high school. And the reason I'm sharing this was because it was a key thing that happened. Yes, there were many along the way, but in the senior year of high school, our class, there were about 10 of us left, got to meet with the rabbi for like 2 or 3 hours every Sunday. And I will tell you that all the fighting that I did all through those years was, I don't know, somehow worth it, because I arrived at this wonderful place. So this is like meeting with the priest. I don't know if it's like meeting with the Pope, but it's meeting with somebody who there was no question in my mind when he stood up at the services, when he raised his hands for everybody to rise. I'm telling you, I felt the presence of whatever God was to me in that. And whether that was because my parents had me moving along, or because I came in naturally with that, or because I heard about it and was open to it. And I'll just say, and Rabbi Robbins, he was from Hungary, and he carried like the old world with him, it seemed to me, even though he was a modern American rabbi. So, and then, I don't know, I didn't really think much about that training, spirituality. I really didn't think much about it. And then later, when I went to social work school, I found myself at Yeshiva University, which is like Fordham is in Christianity. It's like a Jewish university. It was primarily founded for Orthodox people who identified as Orthodox, but in the modern age, it's non-sectarian, even though there were a lot of Jewish people who went there. And like half conscious, I'm thinking, how did I get here? How did I pick this school? I mean, it was a good pick for me for many reasons. And it was like I sort of landed there. And it wasn't until even further in my adulthood that I could appreciate how it was I got there. And then developed an interest in studying all different religions because of the relationship that I understood between spirituality and religion, which we'll get into later. And also in that senior year, Rabbi Robbins taught us about one divinity and all the different ways people could practice and observe, and some people worship or observe holidays, whatever that was. So even as a high school senior, I got a global picture of openness, and that, you know, a religion I was brought up in was just one avenue for a person to find spirituality within themselves. And we'll talk later about the discernment between spirituality and religion. So I'm a person who, you know, I can be in any cultural, spiritual setting and experience, have rich experiences. So that's all I'd want to say. I mean, it's a lot, but that's all I want to say. More will come out as we talk. How about you, Janine?
Okay. Oh boy. Well, my path isn't very linear. It's very bizarre. No, it's different. I don't know how to explain it. I mean, I do know how to explain it. So what I'd like to say first is that as I was listening to you talk, I was thinking about my own journey. And so I thought, what would be a good way to segue into the beginning stages is to talk about how later in life as an adult, I saw two different past life regression channelers, whatever you call them. And one told me that I had been a pagan in many lifetimes, And the other one told me that there was a point in one of my lifetimes where I had to make a choice. Like it was during the time of, can't think of the name, but the when you had to choose between paganism versus Christianity. I forget what that time period was called, but anyway, that I had to make that choice, and I ended up making the right choice. So I thought that was kind of neat. So I say all that to say that I grew up Christian in the Hungarian church in Columbus, Ohio. So my stepfather was Hungarian. He came here in 1956 and escaping the Hungarian Revolution. And so growing up in the Hungarian church, there was that, but I always felt like an outsider because I wasn't Hungarian. And so along the way, I started to things would happen. Like we moved to the country and I found this tree stump and began to use it as my altar. And then sometimes whenever we'd have Hungarian gatherings for like dinners or what have you, or breakfasts, like on Easter, I would sneak upstairs to the church when everybody was not paying attention. And I would just go up there and get on my knees in front of the altar and just pray. And it was just my little sneaky habit that I would do. And I always thought it was kind of neat. Like, I was like, please don't let anybody find me. And I don't think they ever did because nobody ever questioned it. But so that was kind of my little thing to do. And then somewhere along the line, I think when I was in middle school, I watched the movie, The Song of Bernadette. And it deeply moved me because I had never heard of goddesses. I didn't know there were such things. And so listening to her story and then how she became this very pious woman as a result of that, it just like something inside of me, it just moved me. And so that was kind of childhood. And then my senior year, we had to write a term paper because this was when you had to be a little bit more intelligent in high school, and you were held to more higher standards than you are today, where you're just taking a test. And so with this term paper, the Problems in Democracy was the class, and my teacher, Mr. Dahlman, told us that we had to choose a topic that was like something that was going to, a critical topic that was going to make us think. And he said it was going to be something that was going to transform the rest of our life. Like we would never, this paper was just going to be like a turning point for us. Something along those lines. Maybe he didn't say that, maybe I imagined it, but that's what I remember. And so at that time, it was the year after Jim Jones' massacre in Guyana. And so that had moved me so much because back then I didn't know I was an empath and a highly sensitive person. So, I couldn't get it out of my head. So I decided I would write about religious cults. And in doing so and researching my 25-page paper, which was a big deal as a 17-year-old. But in researching that, I began to learn about other religions and realized, oh, wow, there's other religions besides Christianity and Judaism. And I didn't know that. So I learned about Buddhism and Islam and Hinduism and different things like that, because I was reading these different books about religions and religious cults and all that sort of thing. So it did transform my life. I went to California with my ex-husband, who was my husband at the time. We got divorced, and while I decided to stay there, and while I was there, there was a point where I got on my knees again and I said, I need a teacher. I need help. I can't do this alone, because I was in California all by myself by this point. And lo and behold, this woman came to me through my boyfriend. It was his mother, and her name was Lucy Traeger. And she and I became very, very good friends until she died in 2012. And she was Native American Cherokee. And so she kind of taught me, she sort of opened up the doors to things that I had wondered about my whole childhood, with the getting on my knees and paganism and all that sort of thing that was sort of sneaking in the doors. And I also forgot to mention, I was very, doing a lot of dreaming as a child and wanting so much to talk about these things, but I had nobody to talk to, because I learned very early on that nobody really understands these kind of things. You have to be with special people. So anyway, so I worked with her for 30 years. And in that time period, I was exploring different spiritualities. I was studying it in college, world religions. I took a class on philosophy in college, and just learning about various things. And she had me starting with different books. So J. Krishnamurti, and I was involved with Terry Cole Whittaker's church for several years. So that's, and then at some point I got involved in Wicca and studying about goddesses directly. And then after a crisis last year that you and I are well aware of, I just began to return to God, not to Christianity. It's just more like I just felt a need to find something I was struggling. I was in a crisis and I was struggling for some support and some answers. So I bought the Women's Study Bible. I began reading that. I began to do some prayers, and I began to really get involved with Insight Timer and learning from Methods and Maria Gallo. And then I was listening to them talking about contemplative prayer or centering prayer. And so I began doing that twice a day for 20 minutes. And so that's kind of where I am now, just in this I am in a more pious place where I've always wanted to be, but I guess I never felt worthy until now. I'm not sure. Or I guess I just didn't realize how important that would have been to me all along. What I finally realized was my whole life has been doing spirituality when I felt like it. And now I'm like, that's why my life has been such a mess and so much chaos, because I wasn't being devoted to a spiritual practice and something that was, I needed to stop playing games, and I needed to be grounded in some kind of a spiritual practice. And so that's where I am right now.
So you're bringing up something that, well, there's two things I wanted to share. I want to address your last point second. So where I went as an adult then was in my training of doing hypnotherapy, and then a few years at Smith in contemplative practice. And both Janine and I teach meditation. And I don't know if you have a meditation group right now. I mean, I have in the past. And so that the idea of pious, I think of as holy or sacred. For me, it's been a deep feeling. So, I mean, I had it when I sat with the rabbi, I had it when I went to a luncheon recently at the Hungarian Center. What's the proper name of the place?
Oh, St. Ladislas.
Yeah, but what's the group?
Oh, the Hungarian Cultural Association.
The Hungarian Cultural Association, to be present for your presentation, your historical presentation there. Yet when I went in, whether it was the richness of the cultural tradition that was expressed there, but it was as if I was walking into the Vatican. I mean, it was such a deep spiritual sense. And yeah, I'll say, one of my teachers will say, well, that was in you, Ellen. So I'm going to say we carry whatever that is with us. Mm-hmm. And then where we place ourselves can bring these things out. And whether it's cultural and spiritual, God related or not God related. And then the last thing that you mentioned, and I have read this and heard this and use it for myself as I climb into better alignment with what I know is the fitting thing for me. Someone else might say, oh, well, the right thing for me to do. And when I'm not doing what's that fitting thing, whether it's with integrity or spirituality or whatever doing the right thing is, that idea of having a practice that, and all the times that I've known that and like tried to run away from it, not even half consciously. And, is that related to things going smoothly in one's life? Now, I have read that over and over again, and I have denied that, fought that, all kinds of things. But I have to tell you, every time I'm in sync with that, what that idea that I have, that I could be doing something that would really be more in alignment with that centering, I have to tell you, things do go smoothly then. And, someone could say, oh, it's just a mindset or it's all in your mind. Well, so what? Your mind, this is like a higher part of us. So I have been inspired that way. I'm imperfect. And when I'm in sync, it really does go so much better.
It does. Yeah. I think faith in something is going to make things happen in your life. When you are focusing, you can hold a crystal in your hand and just focus on whatever it is you're focusing on that you need support around. You can have a cross around your neck and you can pray to Jesus. You can, whatever, I know I don't know what you call them. I'm sure you do. The things on your door that Jewish people have.
Mezuzah.
That's right.
Yeah.
You can, you kiss that when you walk into your home.
Right.
And that's something that's important. Doing prayers 5 times a day in the Islam faith, the faith of Islam. It's funny though. I thought many years ago when I saw the Song of Bernadette, and over the years, whenever I'd read about women who were very pious, they were always Catholic. So I was assuming, I know that sounds so stupid, but
no, it just sounds young. It doesn't sound stupid. It's just until you wake up to the next meaning. I think most of us think things are the way they are when we're exposed to them. And then later we discover it's even bigger than that.
Yeah, exactly. So in the different things that I learned about over the years, I didn't really listen to anybody talking about any sort of pious way of being. And so, people in the Wiccan religion, not religion, but Wiccan beliefs, generally will follow, you'll get together in covens and circles and for different holidays and things like that. But it was, and there are some women that did follow it more devoutly. But for me, I just always kept thinking I had to be Catholic to be a devout person. And I didn't, as a little girl, I wanted to be a nun, but then I met boys. And then as an adult, I never felt pulled in that direction. So it wasn't until recently when I realized that this is something I just can do myself. That I can, and I love the centering prayer because it's making me create this dedication each day. It's given me this practice so that I am called to doing this. And I just started doing it because I thought, oh, this is like advanced meditation. Sure, I'll take on 20 minutes 2 times a day. It sounded interesting to me. But then as things began to happen from doing this, my intuition became strengthened. It was like, oh, wow. And suddenly, being called to doing things like the spiritual retreat we're going to go on in November, I'm listening to my inner voice differently. It's like, I feel like God is speaking through me. Yeah, I feel like that's what's happening. And so I'm paying attention and listening.
Something occurs to me in a response to what you're saying, and that is in other trainings and background that I have and in helping people, so many of us are looking for what is our purpose. What am I really doing here? Things like that. And a lot of people are finding that it's to bring in some kind of wisdom, energy to others or onto the planet. And also when you were saying earlier, someone could connect with Jesus or inner wisdom or whatever that is, that really a general way that some people can do that is to listen to their own, to know that it's their own true self. That whether it's our inner wise self or our innate wise self or inner healthy parent. I mean, there's a million names, and not to get caught up in the names, but to tap into what is the highest truth about this that I'm looking at, or this that's upsetting me, or to ask, like when you ask, connect to me, support me, and then the next minute you're feeling it. So, that's a way to look at all of this also.
Yeah. And something I've been opening up the envelope with a lot of families in therapy is talking to them about the importance of teaching their children something. I slip it in there like in a tiny way, because I'm not there to like make them do anything, but I just kind of give that little hint because, I think that's so important that children are raised with some sort of belief system, value. I mean, you may think differently, but when I think about children who've been raised with some sort of belief system, they have something to jump off of, it's like they've got that starting gate in life, that they're going through that starting gate with this religion or that religion or what have you. And then as adults, we can choose to pick chocolate or vanilla because we've had some starting gate, versus a child who doesn't have anything, and then they just live their life in a place of, well, I don't believe in anything. I don't follow anything, blah, blah, blah. And they just kind of live their life the way they do. I just think that's so important. Because if you don't have anything to start with, then it's like going into an ice cream store and you've never eaten ice cream. How are you going to know which one to choose if you've never tasted it? We need something in life. We only live once. In this body, we live, certainly I believe in reincarnation, but in this lifetime, in this body, we're living one time. And so it's short. We don't know how long we've got. So why not use it?
So I didn't quite have that wisdom as a young parent, because I was fighting as if my parents pushed me into, so I was rebelling. And so I couldn't find a temple or a Jewish group that I felt comfortable in, because I had this inner fight going on. And so I did not give our child a formal education, because I was still fighting that. Even though I had been to social work school at Yeshiva University, even though I was so he got from me a role model of spirituality, which had a smattering of cultural things. And when I was having an issue as a young parent, I would say, hold on a second. And I would say to God, okay, God, you got to help me here. You got to help me here. So that's the extent that he got, plus whatever he witnessed in me, because I have a million altars, and, he knows I'm a meditator and all that. But I think that with all that, I may be lumped into that category of foo-foo, or that's all, mystical junk and whatever. Nevertheless, he has a strong Jewish identity that doesn't seem to be associated with God at all. So he'll find his way. And, but I do agree. And I do this with clients, and I do it in a very non-judgmental way. I ask lots of questions. And one is, do you happen to have a spiritual connection? No worries if you don't, but I will tell you my experience working with many, many clients and friends, that if you have a spiritual connection, it can, and if it's not already a partnership, it can be cultivated into a partnership. And that, in a healing way, in my experience, is the shortest distance between feeling upset and feeling great. You can use your relationship with your spiritual connection, and that as a healing avenue, when you know what to do with it, whether through your own contemplations or help from others or your own wisdom, that's the shortest distance to healing. I really have found that.
Yeah. And there's been studies that show that in the hospitals, when people come in and do the praying around the patient and whatever, it helps in the healing process. So no different than holding a crystal when I'm in some kind of pain and focusing on healing, and then suddenly I'm healed. So there is power in prayer, as the saying goes, and meditation and what have you.
Well, and we mentioned that in one of our previous conversations about mind over matter, and really that we are energy. These bodies are made up of energy. So when I think of spirituality, sometimes I talk about it as that we are a spirit or a spark of light, of energy inside this physical vehicle. And that's what empowers it, whether you call it life force energy. And, you know, and you could think that that's how it is when you hold a crystal. You're using your consciousness to ignite, fan the flame of, enhance, apply, use the resources of energy around us and in us for a focused purpose, whether it's a question we formulate and we get an answer, whether it's concentrated prayer, that's another term that's used for healing, and whether you're sending energy, divine energy, whatever, or thinking in terms of sending healing energy to someone or to yourself for their highest good. Oh, and that's what I wanted to say before when you were talking about belief systems and faith and values, that a family's value could be in the goodness for all, the good for all, or the goodness in each person, or doing acts of kindness and generosity, and all that list of virtuous characteristics that we have, that can be faith in that, faith in the value of that, even if it's not in a deity or a goddess. And the other thing I wanted to add, what you said earlier, I don't know where in my training, and I don't mean like formal school training, because then I gravitated to learn through different teachers. I mean, there were some books, I have a feeling we read the same books on the goddess. And I can't remember, there were one or two that had like famous titles, but I can picture the books. So, and The Goddess Within, I think, was one, and, you know, there were some others. So, you know, so however you tap into, I'm going to say the highest part of yourself, whatever that is, and all the different ways that we think about that.
Yeah. And when you speak about books, what I think is important is that people are led to those books, to the teachers, to the faith, to the beliefs. I think people should be led to it. So when I'm talking to a client about books, I might mention a book or two, but a lot of times I'll say, when you're looking this up online or at the bookstore, look at the books around it, and whichever one ends up, you know, calling to you, take that one. You know, I may say, start with J. Krishnamurti, but when you go on Amazon and you see all these other books under that saying people who also bought blah, 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 and the other one, you're like, oh, I like that one better, go for it, you know?
Right.
Because ultimately your path, just like me getting on my knees as a little girl to where I am now, that's something. Spirituality is intimate. It's individual. It's not something you can share it with people. You can go together to a labyrinth walk, or you can go together to a retreat or to a church or a temple or what have you. But ultimately, you're interpreting whatever you're interpreting yourself. I can't share it with you. I can't share it with this person. I can talk about it. We're talking about it today, but whatever people are going to get out of this, it's going to be different for every single person listening, because they're going to latch on to this one thing that I said, or this one thing that you said. And that's going to be what's going to drive them to consider whatever they're going to go for.
I like to think of that as like little threads light up, and then you follow the one that lights up for you.
Yeah.
You know, I remember in a bookstore, it's not that many bookstores. I'd like there to be more bookstores where you could, you know, I mean, I think there were a few times where a book actually fell off the shelf in my direction. And I went, oh, I guess this is the one I'm supposed to get. Or I had a teacher who said, you know, just put your hands up, and the one that stands out, you know, either hot or cold or whatever, that's the one for you. Or just the one that you like, you know, if you're attracted to notice like an inclination in your heart in a direction, follow it. And then if there's something else to follow off of that, and that's, and it is a path. It's a path. It's not a done deal, not anywhere along the way. It's like ever unfolding. If you can, it's a little mind boggling, but ever unfolding.
Exactly. I mean, I've never known where I was going to end up right now. I've never known that. And there were times when I thought, I made a joke about this in another video we did, but there were times when I thought, okay, this is it. I know I'm never going to go off this path. I'm always going to be on this path, you know? And you know, what happened this past year, I had no idea. I never would have in a million years have said, oh yeah, this is where Janine's going to end up. Right. Yeah. But, and other things that came up along the way that I also think we haven't mentioned, different things that drive you spiritually, like yoga, not just meditation, but doing yoga. Some people do Tai Chi. I think I've taken a orientation in it once, but there's those two, I think, are good spiritual exercise courses, Tai Chi and yoga. But then there's also,
well, can you say more about that? Like, what's the idea behind it? Or
well, yoga is a spiritual exercise. I've been doing that since 1970 something, when Lilius Yoga and You were on PBS in Columbus. I don't remember what her last name is for the life of me, but because she was just Lilius. But you know, I could barely get the channel because we lived on a farm, and you know, the reception wasn't good out there. So I would have looking at WOSU with the lines going through the TV, and I'm trying to watch her get in these postures, and I'm just doing whatever she's doing. And so that was my start. But it's a spiritual exercise because yoga works from the inside out. And I later did Kundalini Yoga, which is a very advanced form of yoga, where you are in a posture and you're doing a breathing exercise. And that's actually where I had an out-of-body experience, which was really fascinating. It didn't last very long, but it was a fascinating thing because yoga, before people started opening up yoga studios, you know, the classes I would take, I was in the Kundalini class that I took was in the back of a metaphysical book, a back of a metaphysical store called L'Objet d'Art and Spirit over by the Beverly Center. It was nearby to the Bodhi Tree, and this is in Los Angeles. And we would go to the back of the store, and there was like, I think 5 women, and we were on the floor there in the storeroom, and we would do these classes once a week on Saturdays mornings, I think it was. So that was my introduction. So yoga is, you know, and you end with a meditation, and it's just a very, it's grounding. It's a grounding experience, getting inside of your body. I don't know. That's all that's coming for me right now.
And some of our viewers may know that there's all different types of yoga.
Yes.
And I think even the term yoga, as Yogananda defines it, is the union with the divine. So there's some of that in there.
Namaste.
Then what else? There was something else. What else haven't we
I don't know.
talked about? How about higher states of consciousness, that we're all, just like you said, at one point in your life, you thought all goddess energy was women, Catholic, and then your consciousness expanded with more awareness, and that's ever unfolding too. And sometimes in a dilemma that I've been in, I would ask, what would God do? Or some of my friends, what would Jesus do? Or, what's the thing to do that benefits the most people? Or what's a win-win kind of a thing? To reach for a harmonious kind of a solution is a word that comes to me. I mean, we all have different experiences, different words come to us, even words that you and I use, our viewers, if there's a better word, use your word. So
Yeah.
I don't know. Any thoughts on that? Consciousness?
Yeah, consciousness, higher consciousness. I remember a book, Handbook to Higher Consciousness.
That was my first book.
Yeah.
I still have it. Ken Keyes Jr.
Yeah.
And this is so much fun, Janine. When we talk, it's like we discover these things that we had in common that we didn't even know. That's why it's fun. I encourage anyone to have these kind of conversations with whoever you can have these conversations with, because you find connections and commonalities. It's very sweet.
Yeah, there's a link there. That book was really transforming for me. And I went on to read A Healthy Person's Guide to Relationships, or A Conscious Person's Guide. He wrote that too. And you can still get those books.
Yes.
It's hard to find them, but you can still get them.
Yeah.
Handbook to Higher Consciousness, and then Autobiography of a Yogi, which Yoga book. I've been to the temple in Malibu.
Oh, we'll have to have those conversations because I'm curious. I've only been there online.
Yeah, it's a beautiful place walking around there. They've got some of the ashes of Gandhi and Martin Luther King underneath like a shrine kind of thing, because Hindus, they like the shrine type thing. And then I went to his temple, yet another one in Richmond, California, which was a strange place to put it. But it seems strange now, but way back then it was just an unknown town. But it's up on the hill and it's a really beautiful place. So yeah, these are some of the type of temples that I've been to, including I've gone into beautiful Catholic churches. I love going inside because they're so ornate. I've been in some in Mexico and Canada, and just some really beautiful places. And also in Wales. Wales. That one was a weird place to go to. But anyway, it was very dark.
Visually dark.
No.
Oh, energetically dark.
Energetically dark. Yeah. It was, I don't know what happened there, but something happened there. So anyway, so higher consciousness, and when I think of that, I just think of expanding our consciousness and integrity, personal integrity. And I like how you said, what would God do, or what would Jesus do? I think that's how you kind of pull yourself back and ground yourself. Because I think I'm safe in saying that you and I both believe that we're one with God, that, you know, it's this.
I like that, the omnipresent.
Yeah.
I like that.
No
And
separation, no separation there. But I think it's an ongoing journey that we all have to, you know, when we say our purpose in life, it's important that we all have some journey that we're on. You can't just be in this world. I mean, you can be, but I think it's foolish to be in this world and not have something that grounds you and centers you and balances you, and that you can draw from when you are going through a crisis, when you are at your wit's end with your business or your relationship or your child, or something that's happened to you in society. You know, now when I'm listening to people, when they're coming into my office, you know, because I've like gotten more centered in this spiritual belief, I hear my clients, I wish I could turn the conversation into a different conversation, you know, but that's not really what therapy is about. I mean, I throw it in now and then. And I always talk to people about what their spirituality is, because that's a holistic way of working with somebody. And I draw on that when we're talking about trauma in their life. I draw on that to discover, you know, and when I'm talking to them about their coping skills or what have you. But sometimes I wish I could just say more. I wish I could be more like a spiritual director and help them to understand that, you know, your life is going to be better if you could find something to believe in, if you could step outside of this world, you know, you have this decision that you have this pain, or you have this decision that this man is like this, or this woman is like this, or that your children are like that, or you are like this. Tap into your spirituality, tap into something inside of yourself. Look outside of you, look above. Take a walk in the garden, go to the national forest, or what have you, and tap into spiritual wisdom. And I think your life is going to go so much better. You may not have that pain. You may not have that when there's something bigger than you.
You know, I think that is really valuable. And a lot of times people have so much mind chatter that they, you know, it's can feel for a time too confusing and can't break out of that. And that once you have the idea that you just gave people, that really helps people to have a spiritual, even a spiritual curiosity helps. And that's a beginning to see. It's like, you know, like somebody saying, you know, have you tried wearing something in this color? You know, because this color really enhances your energy, or something like that. And then the person could say, oh no, I never even thought about that. So, you know, hearing what you've said, you know, there may be somebody listening or viewing or knowing somebody who could be invited to just try something on, knowing that they could throw it away later. It's just if you don't bring yourself to it with I wonder if this could help me. You could pick the most minimal flavor of curiosity and bring yourself to someone or to something or to a book, or you step in the used bookstore into the spirituality aisle and just see if there's something there. Not that you're reading books like an authority, you read them for the energy to see if there's something that lightens up something else in your consciousness.
Exactly. Exactly.
And the part about people find calm and centering, going into a forest, going to the beach, taking a walk, standing out and just facing the sunshine. So, you know, anyone who's listening, if you're helping other people, you can invite them. I like invite because invite means they could take it or leave. It gives them maximum space to take it up rather than telling someone, which, you know, they could have like a little wall come up initially. So to invite people into nature, because that's could be an easy way. Some people look up at the stars. Some people sit with a candle. Some people, you know, have a dinner and really enjoy what they're doing. Focusing in, it's so great that I have this to eat.
Yeah.
Because lots of people don't have things to eat.
Yeah.
And you can say a prayer for those people if you want. But any kind of appreciation for yourself. And I will say that for anybody who wants to help somebody discover that that inside themselves, or to help somebody do that, that Be Happy No Matter What book, 5 Steps to Inner Freedom, is really about noticing that you've been listening to an inner voice your whole life, even though it was echoing in the background, even it got pushed aside, that there was a little something that said something to us that we may not have paid attention to. And that's a guide inside ourselves. You don't have to call it God or spirit, just start there. That there's an inner calm that you can get to in yourself. And you know, that's one way.
Yeah.
But you know, it really helps. It helps when you can discover something that you can rely on in that way that
Yeah.
you're talking about.
And I like what you were talking about earlier about taking what works for you from it. That's something, one of the first things Lucy taught me was, you know, when I would go to a lecture or a spiritual teacher or what have you, she'd say, just hear what they have to say and just pull out whatever it is that you're resonating with, whatever seems to, and the rest of it's just garbage. Because garbage meaning it wasn't relevant to me.
It wasn't for you, but it's for somebody else.
It is, yeah. So I've, you know, so just focusing on whatever it is that I got from that teacher. And sometimes I'll start reading a book and it's like, doesn't do anything for me.
Right.
So, but I mean, it was like, I bought a book recently after listening to a woman speak on Insight Timer, and she had wonderful things to say in the live recording that she did. Bought her book, but then I realized this isn't really what I need. But I was happy to give her, you know, the $13 for showing up to her lecture and supporting her, because by buying her book, it's going to make her get higher up on the Amazon chart or something. So
I like that. It's going to help her get higher up, whatever that is.
Yeah, whatever that is. Yeah.
And you can always give the book to someone else.
And I probably will, one of my clients.
But what you're sharing about really is having received things that resonated through her talk, and then you had the inspiration to buy the book, and maybe it was to help her out. Maybe you thought, or I would think, you know, well, you know, maybe I'm going to learn more in this book, but the real purpose was to help her out or to pass it to someone else. And then you had the discernment of, oh, wait a minute, that was that was enough of that. You know, I wonder what will come to my view, or what will inspire me next, or other thoughts. And I do the contemplative prayer, the centering prayer, meditation, that in that path of acquiring more and more connection with stillness, because meditation is a path, and the quieter we get, sometimes the more active that chatter gets. So we can work on sending it away, supporting it becoming less restless, those restless thoughts, going on without paying attention to them. I mean, there's all different ways that we each get to face what's in the way. That path of meditation is really an energizing infusion, reinforcement of life force energy.
Yeah.
And the more I school myself, the more I'm hearing the messages for me that's a gateway, a doorway to really making choices about how to apply my energy, this energy, our energy on the earth plane.
Yeah.
So, and that interests me, so I'm curious about that. So I'm going to go for more of that. You know, everybody's going to go for more of whatever is their path and what interests them.
Well, we've come to the hour. I'd like to invite people. We don't get a lot of comments when we do our conversations. I'd like to invite people to comment on what their spiritual path is. What is it you do that creates spirituality for you? Put it in the comment section. We'd love to hear it, and love to have you be a part of this conversation by sharing your awareness in life. That would be wonderful.
Great. So join us again for another enlightening conversation, and take what you can from this. Some people have said they listen to these recordings a second time.
Good.
You never know what you hear, and what you hear inside yourself as you have us along with you. So thanks for joining us.
Thank you.